In this video, we will walk through the basics of motor carrier services, including the International Registration Plan, IRP, the International Fuel Tax Agreement, IFTA, and intrastate accounts. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. In this session, we'll walk through key compliance requirements, account setup, and common transactions to help you stay on the road and in compliance with South Carolina regulations. But first, let's dive into a little bit of background about SCDMV motor carrier services. Prior to 2022, the SCDMV handled trucking-related business, like registration, for example, but there was no centralized hub for motor carriers to deal with. They would have to register with one department and pay their fuel taxes with another department. Whenever they had questions, they would have to reach our headquarters call center, which was yet another department to deal with. This made communication and consistency nearly impossible. In 2020 and 2021, the industry expressed the need for a dedicated unit, especially as supply chain challenges during the COVID pandemic highlighted gaps in support. That's why, in 2022, the Motor Carrier Services Directorate was established as a single point of contact for all motor carrier-related issues. As a directorate, we coordinate with certain trucking industry partners like the South Carolina Trucking Association and various government agencies like FMCSA, USDOT, and SCDOT. This makes operations run more smoothly for carriers. That's why we like to refer to ourselves as a one-stop shop. So, when we put together all things related to registration for large commercial motor vehicles, fuel taxes, and customer service for motor carriers, we get motor carrier services. Now that we have some information about what motor carrier services are, let's walk through how to open a new IRP or IFTA account. To qualify for an IRP account, there are two key requirements. First, you must have an apportionable vehicle. And second, you must have residency or an established place of business in the state of South Carolina. Let's break that down. Apportionable vehicles are commercial motor vehicles intended for use in multiple states and that are used to transport persons or property. An apportionable vehicle must also have a gross vehicle weight of over 26,000 pounds, have 3 or more axles, or be used in combination with a trailer when the gross weight of that combination is more than 26,000 pounds. If your commercial motor vehicle is primarily used within the borders of a single state and rarely participates in interstate commerce, then your vehicle is not apportionable because it would generally be considered intrastate. In order for a vehicle to be apportionable under the International Registration Plan, or IRP, it must be intended for use in multiple states. Intrastate carriers should purchase trip or fuel permits from the states through which they desire to travel, should they decide to do so. Apart from having an apportionable vehicle, the other requirement for opening an IRP account with the SCDMV is having an established place of business or a residence in this state. An established place of business must be a physical location in the state that is staffed during normal business hours and manages trucking operations. Valid proofs of established places of business include South Carolina Articles of Incorporation, a commercial lease agreement or property deed for the brick-and-mortar location of your business, a state or federal income tax return, Form 1040-C or 1120-S, and the employer's quarterly federal tax return, Form 941. In order to open an IRP account using an established place of business, you must provide all 4 of these proofs of address. All documents provided must have the same address. Your other option is to use your residence address. To provide proof of residency, you must submit a valid South Carolina driver's license and any 2 of the following: a South Carolina vehicle title, a utility bill, your income tax return, a property tax receipt, your residential lease agreement or mortgage statement, or South Carolina Articles of Incorporation. As with proofs of an established place of business, all of the documents provided must have the same address. To apply for a new account, you'll upload your documents through the SCDMV's website, dmv.sc.gov. A motor carrier services specialist will review your application and either approve or deny it within 5 business days. If your application is denied, you'll receive an email explaining what needs to be corrected, and you will have the opportunity to reapply. If needed, a specialist may also contact you directly to help resolve any issues. Once approved, you will be sent an invoice. After you pay your invoice, you will then receive your credentials. Invoices may be paid online, through the mail, or in person at one of 8 SCDMV branch offices that processes motor carrier transactions. Those locations are Greer, Chester, Irmo Ballantyne, Columbia O'Neill Court, North Augusta, St. George, Kingstree, or Dillon. To access the online portal, you must submit a form called the MC26, which is the Web Entry Access Application, during the application process. Now that you know what you need in order to open an IRP account, let's explain what IRP actually is. The International Registration Plan is an agreement among the 48 contiguous U.S. states, Washington, D.C., and the 10 Canadian provinces, which recognizes the registration of commercial motor vehicles issued by other jurisdictions. IRP allows commercial motor vehicles to operate across multiple jurisdictions with a single registration, which must be renewed annually, and the issuance of IRP credentials. Once you pay your invoice, you will receive credentials. This means that you will receive an apportion plate and a cab card. An apportion plate is the kind of license plate used by IRP carriers. In South Carolina, apportion plates do not have a decal on them. You just need the plate. The cab card is the registration card for the vehicle. Each vehicle has its own unique plate and cab card. So, it is important that carriers keep the plate and cab card with the same vehicle for which those credentials were issued. If we take a closer look at the cab card, we see some important information. It has the date registered. This is the first month of the registration year. The expiration date is when their IRP registration year ends. You will need to renew your account before this date. The cab card has your apportion plate number, your name and address, USDOT number, some information about your vehicle like the VIN, fuel type, make, model, and year. The gross vehicle weight and the unladen weight are listed as well. The registration number or unit number is like a shorthand for the VIN. This number is created by the carrier and can be any brief alphanumeric combination. It simply allows SCDMV employees to search for your vehicle more easily within our computer system. And as we can see, there is also a list of IRP member jurisdictions. This explains that you have the ability to drive your vehicle in any of these jurisdictions legally. Once you are registered under the International Registration Plan here in South Carolina, this state is what is called your base jurisdiction. All other states and provinces are called foreign jurisdictions. Understanding this difference is important for understanding some of the fees you will be charged whenever you renew your IRP account. All IRP accounts must be renewed every year. When you renew your IRP registration, you will report mileage that you accrue across the various IRP member jurisdictions that you travel in, and you will be charged some fees based on those miles and on the value of your vehicle. Whenever you renew your IRP registration, there is a specific date range for which you will report the miles you accrue on the road. All reporting periods are from July 1st of one year through June 30th of the next year. For example, if you were to renew your IRP registration in June 2026, you would need to supply the SCDMV with information about how many miles you traveled in the various IRP member jurisdictions during the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. That same reporting period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 applies for all renewals through September 2026. Once October rolls around, the SCDMV starts asking for mileage from the next 12-month period. For your next renewal in June 2027, you would report your miles from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This pattern repeats every year. The fees collected by the SCDMV for IRP account renewals, which we call apportionable fees, include the base jurisdiction registration fee, the road use fee, and foreign jurisdiction fees. The base jurisdiction registration fee is charged for the use of South Carolina as the base jurisdiction. This fee is based on the distances traveled in South Carolina and applies to both interstate and intrastate vehicles. The road use fee is a tax collected by South Carolina on commercial motor vehicles weighing over 26,000 pounds and buses with more than 16 passenger seats. This fee is based on vehicle value and also applies to both interstate and intrastate vehicles. Foreign jurisdiction fees are charged by other jurisdictions to use their roads. This fee is based on the distances traveled in other states and provinces and applies only to interstate vehicles. The International Fuel Tax Agreement, or IFTA, simplifies fuel tax reporting for carriers operating in multiple jurisdictions. It is a tax collection agreement between the 48 contiguous U.S. states and the 10 Canadian provinces. Instead of filing separate fuel taxes in each state or province, IFTA allows you to file one quarterly tax return that distributes taxes appropriately. Unlike with the IRP, Washington, D.C. is not a member jurisdiction of IFTA. IFTA licenses are required for carriers operating in 2 or more IFTA member jurisdictions. Licenses last for 1 calendar year, that is from January 1st through December 31st, and are renewed annually. Each vehicle is issued an IFTA decal set that also lasts for 1 calendar year. IFTA quarterly taxes are calculated based on distance traveled and the volume of fuel purchased in each jurisdiction reported quarterly. Late fees are incurred if payments are filed late. The first quarter's reporting period is January 1st through March 31st, with a due date of April 30th to file returns. Quarter two's reporting period is April 1st through June 30th, with a due date of July 31st. July 1st through September 30th marks the third quarter reporting period. October 31st is the filing deadline for quarter 3. October 1st through December 31st is the reporting period for quarter 4, and the filing deadline is January 31st. Tax returns submitted after a respective quarter's filing deadline are subject to late penalties and applicable interest. IFTA licenses may be canceled only during the tax return filing windows. IRP and IFTA serve different purposes, but often work together. IRP handles vehicle registration across jurisdictions, while IFTA handles fuel tax distribution. Depending on your scope of operations, you may require one or both, but certain requirements must be met for each. When applying for IRP only, you must be a registrant, meaning that you are operating under someone else's USDOT number when you are using the other party's IFTA license. You must also have an operational lease agreement, Form IRP 9, on file, proving that you are operating under someone else's USDOT number. When applying for an IFTA-only account, you must have one of the following: an already established IRP account, a farm plate, or a special mobile vehicle. When applying for both IRP and IFTA, you may be one of the following: a carrier operating under your own USDOT number, or a registrant, which is an individual operating under someone else's USDOT number when using your own IFTA license. Now, let's look at quarterly installment payment options available for eligible intrastate carriers. Remember, an intrastate carrier seldom travels outside of a single state, whereas interstate carriers frequently participate in commerce that crosses state or national borders. There are 2 main registration fees for all commercial motor vehicles, regardless of whether they are intended for interstate or intrastate commerce: the base jurisdiction registration fee and the road use fee. Until 2024, only interstate carriers were eligible to make quarterly installment payments on their fees. Intrastate carriers had to pay the total amount of their fees upon registration or renewal. Now, there is a legal provision in place that allows intrastate carriers to make those quarterly installment payments on the fees for their vehicles. However, intrastate vehicles are eligible for this installment payment option only when their gross vehicle weight exceeds 26,000 pounds, or if it is an intrastate bus with more than 16 passenger seats. Opting in means receiving a new plate class and having all registration-related transactions processed in a software Celtic, which the SCDMV uses for motor carrier services, rather than Phoenix, which is what most SCDMV transactions are processed with. If the payments become delinquent, though, the entire fee amount becomes due. For example, if your renewal date is July 31st and your total fee amount is $2,400, you would be able to pay $600 installment payments every 3 months rather than paying the entire $2,400 at once. But remember, late payments make the entire balance due. To opt into quarterly installment payments as an intrastate carrier, you'll apply through the trucking portal on the SCDMV website at dmv.sc.gov. Applications are reviewed within 5 business days by an MCS specialist, and if corrections are needed, you'll be notified by email detaining corrections on each form. If denied again, customers will receive a courtesy call from an MCS specialist to guide them through addressing application errors and any additional concerns. Once approved, you will be sent an invoice. After you pay your invoice, you will then receive your credentials. Thank you for watching. For more information or other questions, please call the SCDMV Motor Carrier Information Center at 803-896-3870.